Okay, we can make a start. Is that loud enough like that, or should I move it closer? Hi, welcome to everyone tonight. My name's Kathi, and tonight we're going to be looking at the quite a lot to fit in tonight. We've got mainly what's called the three higher trainings, which are morality, concentration, and wisdom. And they develop on the basis of the previous one. So morality is the basis for concentration, and concentration is the basis for wisdom. And these are primarily what leads to, developing these are primarily what leads to the path of liberation. And we have what's called the 6 perfections on the Bodhisattva path, which is the path to full enlightenment. And they're within that as well. So they're 3 of the 6 perfections as well. But the path to enlightenment is a whole lot broader and more profound. So it has a whole lot more. But mainly going to focus on the 3 tonight. And I'll go into that a whole lot more later. We'll just start with a settling meditation. So get comfy, and the main thing is having a straight back, which helps the channels, the energy in the channels to flow as easily as possible, even though apparently they're really tied up and twisted and blocked. But anyway, don't think of it like that. We're supposed to think of it all clear and flowing. So also there's a whole there's a few points of the posture for meditation, but really it's just about being comfortable. You can even meditate lying down. There's what's called the supine position, which can be really conducive for some people. It's really about how, again, those psychic channels are in your makeup, because they're all a little bit different. Geshe Doga, who's the resident Lama here, he was once telling us about how I think it must have been Tibet, way back, there was a meditator well known for his on all fours meditation posture, because that was the only way he could get the channels aligned. So he was nicknamed the cow meditator. So you can see, it's really an individual thing. All right, so let's just take a few breaths. Usually recommend, say, 5 breaths just to centre. And you don't need to have your eyes closed. That's just to shut out the sight distraction, but we can't shut out the sound distraction. So it's really just how you feel comfortable. And then pay attention to whatever tension you might have in your body, and just ease into that. Let it drain away. Relax your shoulders. And if there's any emotional tension that you're feeling anxious or a little bit stressed, if you can, just let it go. And sometimes that's not enough. So if there's some emotional issue that's still sitting there, just try and locate it mentally. Sometimes the deeper or more acute issues get stuck. So what we're doing here is really befriending them when we look and try and locate them. It's a kind of embracing, accepting them. So one way to do that is to immerse your whole awareness into the centre of that feeling, that emotion, that, whether it's anger or fear or guilt or depression, resentment, attachment. And try and find the real core of that feeling, the centre of it, the very heart of it. If you need to, you can spend some time on that. Otherwise, just focus on your awareness. The clear and knowing nature of your mind. Just whatever that means to you, at whatever level you're acquainted with it. It's like an open spaciousness. And within this spaciousness, this simply being aware in this clear space between thoughts, if thoughts do arise or any other distractions, other feelings, then just observe them, just note them, but let them go without buying into any story about them, without following the thread. Just sit back with the awareness. This is called abiding in the natural state of awareness. Allowing thoughts to pass by, but not getting taken up by them. We can leave the meditation there. This is something that we can bring into our daily life to help us not get so caught up in things and remain centered. And it's something that often takes a while to get used to, but becoming familiar with it really helps to keep us calm. It's the same as focusing on the breath, but it has advantages to meditate on the mind because there's so many different benefits from that. Last week we were looking at the death process, the Buddhist approach to dying and what happens after death, and that's all part of where our mind's at. So in life, it's conducive to familiarise ourselves with being able to remain centred and not getting carried away by all the ups and downs and all the trivial things that actually can otherwise be quite upsetting if we let them and if we get entangled. So that's just another practice that can help us along the way. And also that meditation where we look at the feelings and really go into finding them, and it's like a really powerful way of addressing our afflicted emotions that could otherwise sit there for a long time. So, and we have layers of these, and they're what's end up causing us illness and mental illness, physical illness. Yeah, so yeah, there's lots of ways in Buddhism that we can keep healthy and happy. So, I was thinking how it can be quite satisfying to know where some emotion that gets triggered comes from. Like a lot of people do therapy and, you can get a lot out of it. But say like the example of if we have a lot of anger coming up and maybe just like not for any particular reason, just might be thinking, well, I'm just so agitated, I don't even know why, but I keep on losing it, So that kind of thing, we don't actually have to know where the source of it is. I mean, it could be from trauma happening when we were kids, and we could know what it is from. Basically, if we look, we could sort of trace it back to, well, it's quite possible that all of that went on when I was young and I couldn't address those difficult times could be sitting here with and resulting in a lot of tension and agitation and confusion. So it can be, satisfying to find out too, like get some kind of confirmation on that. Even just talking about it, it is therapy, but it doesn't necessarily address the present emotions that we're having to deal with. And so like this method of what is actually presenting in the moment in our experience is really direct for dealing with with the afflicted emotions. And so like what happens is over time utilising this method is that the original problem also resolves. So it's quite amazing. Like, I often call it miraculous. It was. I mean, I've got like quite a few examples that from my own life that I've just been able to let go of stuff. Like, there was one time, which is probably one of my favourite examples, years ago. Just a little event in my life, but my partner insulted me. Like, we were just having this debate or something, and he was saying, basically, "You're stupid," and I got quite offended, but I didn't let on, So anyway, we were going to go out for lunch, but I declined, and I went home, and I sat with the feeling, because I knew this method, and I sat there for about half an hour, and I was really like crapped off with him, and anyway, I just got up and did the rest of my day, and as time went on, I was supposed to be going out with him in the evening, and there was no way I was going to do that. So I wasn't even thinking of telling him, but by the time evening came, I actually felt like, okay, yeah, I'll just let him know I'm not going to come. So, I was able to talk to him, and then that night I just did another probably half an hour, because it was really still bugging me, and went to sleep. Woke up in the morning, and I was completely resolved. Like, I did not care at all about that incident, which really kind of rocked me, because like, I can hang on to things like that for weeks or whatever, but yeah, it was quite extraordinary for me, and this was in the beginning of using this technique, so I was really impressed. And anyway, so that was all good, and then as it turned out, it must have been wasn't that long later, and he said the same thing again. And it was really interesting, because it didn't faze me at all. I didn't care at all. And so that was great. It even carried through, And the extra thing was, I didn't have to have it out with him. I didn't have to say anything. Like, it just was so resolved, big deal. And but the final beauty of it was that, I think sort of following on from the second time, he said he apologised out of the blue. I hadn't even mentioned it. And so, it was just a really great example of how, if we resolve things within ourselves, not only is it fine within ourselves, somehow our, I don't know what it is exactly, I usually say it's some sort of on some energetic level, we also, it affects the other party as well. So that was really interesting. But had I must say, had I had a history of being insulted, or, say from my family, parents, or whatever, when I was a kid or whatever, it wouldn't have been so easy to resolve like that. It would have because there would have been the layers. So it would have been more traumatic, not that it was traumatic, but, it would have been more of a big deal to be insulted in the first place like that, had I a history of it. And also it would have taken, to clear it completely would take a lot more work, because you'd have to get through the levels of the previous times as well. So when you do try that, you have to be aware that there could be deeper levels to address. Like, for example, one of those deeper ones, like one time, same person, I was having trouble, and I was really over it, and I was sitting there meditating one day, and I'd been really overwhelmed by the whole relationship, and I'd been just sitting, kind of talking to a couple of people a lot about it. And then anyway, I'm sitting there and I had this vision of me clutching onto the side of a cliff, and there was this immense, like, never-ending abyss below, and it was like, what am I going to do? Like, I had no way of getting up out of this situation. I just had found myself clinging to this side of a cliff, and there's just this valley, like you can't see the bottom, And after, I don't know, I'm just sitting there, it just came to me, and it was not, I realised, and I said the words to myself, I just have to let go. And I did. And then everything just fell away. It was like there was no abyss there. It was like it was miraculous like that. And that's like, I was holding on to this object, this relationship, out of attachment, which is, a big one for me. And, I recognised on this sort of subconscious level that I just had to let go. Like, there's no other way out of it. That was what I got out of this. And, anyway, but that's an example of where there's a lot of layers, a lot of levels to work on, because it did help for a few days, but then took a whole lot longer. And over time you can really deal with the big ones slowly and get to a happier place with it all. But with the acute, just not more superficial issues, or I don't know, like the other example, it can just be that easy. It's just that easy. With the really big ones, you think, oh, there's no way, I won't even bother trying this method, because they just seem so overwhelming. But that's not the case. There's nothing too big. And basically it comes down to the way things appear to us, our feelings, emotions, or anything, is not the way they exist. And so what happens when we really go into them and fully immerse our awareness into the feeling or the issue is we recognise their essencelessness. It's not really a word, but it's that they have no intrinsic existence. And so somehow on this deeper level you get it, you get that, and it's not, it's not going to work intellectually. You've got to get down to that feeling level. I mean, it helps intellectually to understand that, but it really shifts things on that deeper level. Okay, so we're going to go into the 3 higher trainings, and why morality is the basis for developing concentration is that it helps us, like an ethical kind of framework in our life. It brings a discipline to our mind, and so it kind of phases out really big distractions like seeking outer gratification kind of thing. So, like, what the moral discipline is all about is basically not harming others. And I went into this a little bit earlier in the month with the what's called the 10 non-virtues, and it's about our actions of body, speech and mind. So everything comes from the mind, that's the source, but whether we enact them or verbalise them or just think them has an impact on our mind, and obviously can cause us to can't either, like when we're restrained from these, it brings about a whole lot of more calm in our life and less agitation. So, and the other thing that Geshe Doga always emphasises is that this is a really fundamental practice that's accessible to us as wherever we are on the path, whether we're beginners or advanced. These are always the bottom line, are not harming others in all these ways. I mean, in whatever way, but in Buddhism there's a kind of outline of the different ways that we can avoid harming others and ourselves. So it's whatever negative mind states we have are harming us, and this is what causes disease and our unhappiness. So I think we were discussing this in relation to karma and purification earlier in the month, and it's there's a practice of purifying our mind from having engaged in harmful or negative actions, and we can do that on a daily basis. Like at the end of the day, is good to just reflect over the day, and if we're feeling regret about something, then like address it and purify. So there's like a few factors involved that makes it a complete purification. So I went into that. So you can actually source those online, the previous talks. And so why it helps develop concentration to have this moral discipline, like I said, it reduces the outer distraction. So it's like we're less caught up in objects of desire and attachment and less concerned about what we're averse to. Like, we're just less caught up in that. For one reason, one reason is that if we do harm someone else, or really give them a hard time, or whatever, an animal or anything, it can play on our mind. And even if we're not that sensitive and so we don't really think that much about it and it doesn't bother us, on a deeper level it does imprint on our mind, and that can cloud us too. So we can't have any cloudiness if we want to develop concentration. And why we want to develop concentration is because it has so many benefits, and one of the main ones is to be able to have a single pointed focus and utilise that in understanding the nature of the way we exist. And that's really fundamental in Buddhism. But also, along the way, it's you get, like, just as a byproduct of developing what's called calm abiding, which is fully fledged concentration, you get these amazing attainments which also really help on the path. So I was just reading up on them, and they're amazing. Like, you don't hear about them that much in the West, but in places like Tibet and Nepal and India, certainly in the past, but also now, because there's a lot of Buddhists in India now, particularly because they all had to get out of Tibet, and India offered them asylum. And they're basically like, they could be called extrasensory perception, ESP, and there's 5 main ones that you can develop as a side product of single-pointed concentration. Well, actually, single-pointed concentration is what you might have heard the term samadhi. That's a Sanskrit term for it, and that's like 9 stages. But calm abiding, which is called shamatha, that's like at the end of the 9 stages. So there's a little bit of difference there, because calm abiding involves quite a bit more. So anyway, these advanced awareness, one of them is like to do with physical things. So it's having control over the elements, like the inner elements, which controls. Then you've got control over the outer elements, and so you can. One of them is you can run extraordinarily fast. It's sort of like gliding. And I did read a account of this. I mean, it was very common apparently in places like Tibet. But yeah, there was one account that I read, and when I saw this, when I was looking up the attainments of calm abiding, I realised that other account was what they're talking about. It's like this kind of like you barely touch the ground, and it's all because you've harnessed the inner energies. And I don't know how it actually works, but that's one of the feats is you can run extraordinarily quickly. Another one is walking on water, which is, I think, what Christ is well known for. And then, and they're not miracles in terms of the way Buddhists view it. They're called like the mundane cities or attainments. They're not like, there's the super mundane or the mundane, the worldly, and these are like that because anyone actually can develop single pointed concentration or calm abiding. It's not exclusively a Buddhist thing, but in Buddhism we use it for the higher purpose of achieving the wisdom realising emptiness, for instance, which is a more advanced practice. And and so they can like fly. You can fly with this. That's one of the cities. And the other ones are extrasensory sight. So you can see extraordinary distances that, you know, normal people just can't. Same with the hearing. That's another one. And there was one example of that where an attendant of I think before, like the Dalai Lama, His Holiness, is the 14th incarnation at present. So even before his first one, his incarnation at that time, it was him, and he was looking after this High Lama at the time and was serving him, you know, really so devotedly and like with, you know, it was so demanding because this Lama was really sick and he was having to clean up, you know, like his, you know, the toilet situation wasn't happening, you know, because he was so sick, and so he was having to, you know, clean him up and all that. Anyway, he developed this city where he could hear and understand it was something like I don't know, like a cricket or a cockroach or something that was miles away, and he could hear what they were saying. So this is the sort of, you know, amazing type of things that we would never hear about here. And so another one of them is knowing people's past and future lives. And another one is knowing people's thoughts or other living beings' thoughts. And so why this is all so helpful on the path is because, like, for the Mahayana practitioner, their like purpose is to, you know, achieve their highest potential, full awakening, so that they can be fully able to help others. And so these attainments enable that along the path as well. And also because you can help others so much more easily because you know what's going on in their mind, for one thing, and all of those other ones that that obviously support assisting others. So that gives you, you know, like a whole lot more merit, like energy, and that then propels you more into like being able to develop more quickly, and so you get to the goal quicker, and yeah, like that. So it all feeds on itself. So for us, it's recommended to start with like a couple of minutes at a time of just really intense focusing, to not push it, not try and do it too long. Because there's a tendency to drift off. If that becomes a habit, then you really flounder a lot. It's really skillful to start with a very small span of focused time, really quality time. So yeah, it's easier for us to just start with if we wanted to do a daily practice, not even thinking of getting to this point necessarily, but perhaps with that in mind. But even apart from that, developing concentration will bring less benefits, like lesser than these, but will really help keep us calm and help our memory and so on. Instead of doing a crossword, you could do this. And so then you can build up, over time you can build up to 3, 4, 5 minutes, 10, but there's no hurry. It's the quality that's important. And then you'll naturally increase over time. So so I was going to mention that we can also practice concentration through our day in different ways. Part of that is maintaining mindfulness of what I was talking about earlier in just being aware of our actions and how they might impact others. So mindfulness or concentration is really something that we can always be utilising through our day to benefit us and our families and so on. But also before we go to sleep too, there's a practice that like advanced meditators would definitely be practicing, where they keep mindful as they fall asleep. So instead of just like dropping off, to be aware of how your senses are shutting down and your eyes close. Sometimes we don't even realise they close and we're asleep before we know it, but noticing that, and then like the hearing dims, the breathing slows down, and just to keep aware until we actually go to sleep is something that we can develop and can be really helpful for developing concentration, but also helpful for when we die too, because the dissolution of the senses at when we go to sleep is a similitude of what happens when we die, and the dissolution of the sense consciousnesses and all the elements shutting down when we die. So what I went into last week about being fully aware of that happening, how that can really enhance our opportunity to make full use of what happens at death, where once the subtle mind is all that's left, if we can recognise that, it's really powerful. So that's a big thing in Buddhism, to develop that awareness. And also like lucid dreaming, that can be really helpful too for all of that. So that's like where you recognise when you're dreaming that you are asleep and dreaming, and it's still, the dream goes on. So to be able to do that, they say it's best to repeat to yourself before you go to sleep that you want to recognise your dreams, and just keep doing that every night before you go to sleep, and then eventually it'll come into your dream somehow that you'll wake up in your dream. So okay, so as I said, one of the main reasons for developing concentration is to be able to fully focus on the finer points of what Buddhism is all about, with the nature of reality. And I'm going to do, I think we could do a meditation on this, but I'll just explain a little bit. So the wisdom that we're talking about is realising the way things exist, and it's called realising emptiness, or the lack of inherent existence, because the way things appear to us is that they exist, everything exists from their own side, so ourself included. It's like me, like I'm fully like a solid entity, that independent, existing from my own side, intrinsically here within me, It's we all feel that there's this innate wrong view of the way we exist, because actually, well, I'll go into that with the meditation, but this illusion that we exist inherently is what means we live our life with this kind of screwed up view of ourselves. And it basically, it's like we just naturally feel that we're the centre of the universe. Deep down, it's not that we're playing out like that. Mostly, we wouldn't think of coming across like that. But on a subtle level, on a subtle level, there's this element of princess in here. It's like, if we really think about it, even though we're caring people and we're not like what's that term? I can't think of it. Yeah, we might be quite humble or whatever, not arrogant at all, but there's some element that we're functioning from a kind of, me versus the universe. It's sort of like everything is separate to us, and this is what causes all the afflicted emotions. This is what naturally causes them. It's the root of the problem, and so this is like one of the main practices in Buddhism, to really nail this and cut through this illusion that has been, it's really innate, and it's been within our psyche since beginningless time. It's what has caused us to be constantly having to take life after life and out of control, not having any say in it, just being driven by our karma, our actions, the afflicted mind states that propel us. We're just locked into that because of this mind, this like wrong view that we all have, except those who have realised emptiness or selflessness or the lack of inherent existence. There's lots of names for it. So I thought we'd just do a very simple meditation on this. There's what more comprehensive one is called the 4-point analysis, and it covers all grounds. This is just kind of coming in to just to give you an idea, hopefully, of what we're talking about here. So we'll just do a few breaths to centre. Now think of you So what appears to me when I think of myself is what this is the image of myself that I know well. And it seems as if when I've thought of myself, it seems as if I've been here all along, that even when I wasn't thinking of myself, that I must have been here anyway, because what appears to me when I think of myself, the image that appears is such that it seems as if I'm there anyway, regardless of when I think of myself. So that's the trick of this innate wrong view, the mind that not only does it not exist that way, so if we look for ourselves in the body, what we find is a whole lot of organs and blood and bones and all those physical, all that makes us up physically. So what about in our mind? Could we find ourselves to be existing in our mind in the way that we appear? We appear to be existing from our own side when we think of ourselves, as in here within us. The image of ourself appears to our mind. But where are we when we look? So what's happening is ourself and everything, all other things, are totally dependent on our mind. Our whole existence relies on the mental imputation So where does this leave us? How we normally appear to ourselves. If that's an illusion, what are we? It doesn't change our functioning as a person, just because we recognise that we don't exist in the way we appear. We're still functioning. What it can change is how we relate to ourselves. There's nothing to grasp onto. Or anything else. Like when we meditated on the feelings and the emotions and tried to find the heart of them. They're essenceless. And that's the same with ourself. Doesn't mean we stop functioning. We exist relatively in this way, but it can help to recognise that we don't exist inherently, and nor does anything. So this unfindability of anything, of ourself, of the feelings, this is emptiness. This is how we can slowly loosen the grip of the afflicted emotions on us. And this is the path to liberation. So we'll finish the meditation there, and I didn't really have time to go into anything but a tiny taste of how to approach emptiness. It's a vast subject, and I probably should have spent the whole month on it if I had wanted to really present that, but it's just good to give some sort of suggestion of it that you can look into yourself and follow up on, because it's really the basis of all our misfortune and everything that ties us down in life. We can totally get a handle on if the more we realise the true nature of the way we exist and the way everything exists. So good luck with maybe starting a bit of a meditation practice and incorporating some of that into your life, but maybe you already do. And also first wanted to acknowledge a few, apart from my main teachers, His Holiness Dalai Lama and Lama Zopa Rinpoche and Geshe Doga, who lives here. I've drawn from a lot of material from other sources, so Pabonka Rinpoche, Zongsa Tulku, Minga Rinpoche, Tulku Tonduk, and some Western Buddhist practitioners. There's a nun, Venerable Sapal. She lives in the retreat centre in Bendigo that's associated with here. And Alex Burson and Robert Thurman. Just sort of like wanted to acknowledge using teachings from them. And also introduce the next presenter for December. His name is Ashwin, and he's Yeah, it's going to be his first time for leading Monday nights, and he's a really lovely guy. Sure you'll enjoy listening to him, and I don't know what he's going to be talking on, but he's got a lot of really interesting background. So thanks so much for coming, and it's been really great being able to have the opportunity to talk about these things with you, and thank you. Also, you can come and have a cup of tea in the dining room with us if you'd like to stay. Thanks.